for walking out after my mom called me useful, then exposing my sister's party finances? I'm Daisy, 31, the younger daughter in a family where "can you help for a second?" usually means I'm about to lose an entire Saturday. Amber is my older sister, and growing up, she was the one everyone called graceful, magnetic, easy to love. I was the one who knew where mom kept the extra serving spoons, which cousin hated onions, and how many bags of ice it took to get through a family cookout without someone yelling. I didn't start out resenting Amber. For a long time I admired her. She could walk into a room late, holding a drink someone else poured, and people still acted like the room had been waiting for her. I wanted to be included in that glow. I wanted to be useful enough that eventually someone would say, "Daisy, sit down. You've done enough." They never said that. In my family, being dependable didn't earn you respect. It earned you more assignments. At Thanksgiving, I was the one showing up early to peel potatoes while Amber arranged one vase of grocery store flowers and got praised for making the table special. At birthdays, I picked up the sheet cake, bought paper plates, chased the kids away from the gift table, and stayed after everyone left to scrape melted frosting off the kitchen island. At 4th of July gatherings, I ran out for more charcoal, more ice, more napkins, more of whatever mom forgot to buy because she just had so much going on. Amber always had something going on. A headache, a hair appointment, a friend she had to call, an outfit that needed steaming. Later, a very stressful week. After a while, she didn't even pretend to help. She floated through events like she was the bride at every party, and I was somewhere in the background holding a trash bag. The part that made me feel crazy was how everyone treated it like my personality. "Daisy's just so good at this," Aunt Ruth would say while handing me another empty casserole dish. "Daisy likes being busy," Mom would add. "Daisy doesn't mind," Amber would say, usually while not looking at me. I minded. I just didn't know how to mind without being punished for it. The first time I tried to set a boundary, I was 26. It was a family barbecue, and Mom texted me that morning asking me to bring burger buns, fruit trays, paper towels, sunscreen, 2 bags of ice, and maybe those cute little skewers if you see them. I wrote back, "I can bring buns and fruit. I can't do the rest." Mom called within 30 seconds. "Why are you being difficult?" "I'm not. I'm telling you what I can do." Family shows up even when it's inconvenient. "Then ask Amber to bring some of it." There was a pause so cold I could feel it through the phone. "Amber has real things going on, Daisy." That line stuck in me. Real things. As if my time was pretend. As if my Saturdays were just empty space waiting for my family to fill them with errands. Dad, Leonard, called me 10 minutes later. "Don't make your mother feel attacked," he said. "Why is asking for help an attack? You know how she gets." I didn't know how Mom got. Carol, my mother, could turn a simple no into a trial about your character. She didn't scream often. She didn't have to. She used this polished, wounded voice that made her sound like she was the last decent person left in the family. "After everything I've done for you, I guess I know where I stand. Fine, Daisy. Don't worry about your family." And Dad was always there, smoothing the rug after she shoved everything under it. "You're not wrong," he'd say quietly, "but couldn't you have waited until after the event?" That was his favorite trick. There was always an event. A birthday. A holiday. A shower. A dinner. A graduation. A random Sunday that became too emotionally charged for me to have boundaries. Amber learned from both of them. She didn't guilt me the same way Mom did. Amber acted hurt, like I had personally dimmed the lighting around her life. "I thought you wanted to help," she'd say, blinking like I had insulted her. "I do help." "Then why does it always come with an attitude?" "Because help that is expected, unpaid, unthanked, and punished when withheld is not help. It is a job nobody admits exists." But I didn't say that back then. I usually apologized. Then I bought the ice. The oldest family label attached to me was not helpful, though. It was careless. That one started after Grandma died. Grandma had this pearl brooch shaped like a small flower. It wasn't huge or flashy, but she wore it in nearly every nice photo we had of her. She pinned it to cardigans, winter coats, even a scarf because she said pearls made her feel proper. When she passed, Mom handled most of the family keepsakes. There was an old storage box with recipe cards, photos, some paperwork, the brooch, and a small inheritance check meant to cover memorial expenses and distribute a few sentimental items fairly. I helped carry boxes after the service because that was what I did. I carried things. A few weeks later, Mom announced that the brooch was missing and the check had been misplaced. Somehow, by the time the story reached the rest of the family, I was the last person who had handled the storage box. I said I remembered carrying it from Grandma's friend Marjorie's car to Mom's dining room. Mom said, "You were rushing." Amber said, "Daisy probably put it somewhere weird and forgot." Dad said, "Nobody is accusing you. We're just trying to understand what happened." But they were accusing me. Not loudly, not officially, but in that family way where nobody says the sentence outright because they want plausible deniability later. After that, whenever I asked to handle anything important, Mom would tilt her head and say, "Let's not repeat the brooch situation." Amber used it casually like a joke. "Maybe don't let Daisy hold the gift cards," she once said at a baby shower. "You know how things disappear." People laughed and I stood there holding a roll of trash bags, feeling like my face had been slapped from the inside. I asked Mom privately once if she really believed I lost Grandma's brooch. She sighed like I was reopening a wound she had graciously agreed to close. "I think you were overwhelmed and careless. That's all. And the check. Daisy, please. I'm not doing this again." That story followed me for years. I was useful enough to buy supplies and run a party, but not trustworthy enough to be respected. I was reliable when they needed labor and unreliable when they needed blame. The week Amber announced her engagement brunch, I already knew something was off. She sent a picture of her ring to the family group chat first, then called me later, which pretty much told me where I ranked. I congratulated her because I was genuinely happy in the way you can be happy for someone and still tired of their orbit. Colin, her fiancé, seemed nice from the few times I had met him. He was a little reserved around my family, probably because my family performs warmth like it's a team sport. Mom had already decided he was solid, which meant she approved of his manners, his family, and the way he looked at Amber like she was a painting. The brunch was supposed to be small and relaxed. Amber said that 3 times in one call. "It's not a big thing," she told me. "Just family, a few friends," Colin sighed, "and some nice photos." "Amber, that doesn't sound small. It's a brunch. Brunch is casual." 2 days later, she sent a shared planning document. The document had columns labeled guests, food, decor, vendors, timeline, and help. I opened it while eating toast over my sink, expecting maybe a list of who was bringing fruit or muffins. Instead, I saw my name under help. Daisy, kitchen setup, food reset, trash sweep, ice backup, drink station, gift table pack-up, post-party dishes. I stared at it for so long my toast went cold. Under guests, I saw Colin's parents, his sister, Amber's friends, my cousins, Aunt Ruth, Uncle Paul, Mom and Dad's neighbors, even 2 teenagers I barely recognized from Colin's side. My name was not there. I scrolled back up. Maybe there was a second guest column. Maybe Amber had used my name elsewhere. Maybe I was being sensitive, exactly like they always said. No. I was listed once. Under help. I texted Amber. Me. "Where am I on the guest list?" Amber. "What do you mean?" Me. "My name is under help. Not guests." Amber. "Because you said you'd help." Me. "I said I could come early if needed. I didn't agree to run the party." Amber. "Daisy, don't be sensitive. You're better at logistics than sitting around making small talk." Me. "Am I invited as your sister or as staff?" She didn't answer for 20 minutes. Then Mom called. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, the transcript appeared. "Daisy, this is not the time for your little boundaries. Amber has one engagement brunch. 1. She needs today to be nice. Please don't turn this into another thing about your feelings." I saved the voicemail. That was something I had started doing the year before. Saving things. Not because I planned some dramatic takedown, but because I was tired of being told I misremembered my own life. I had a folder on my phone labeled family receipts. It started as a private sanity check. Screenshots of Mom asking me to pay for forgotten supplies. Venmo requests I sent that went ignored. Zelle transfers I made for party rentals because Mom said she would pay me back after things settled. Photos of old family gatherings where everyone posed in the living room, while I was visible through the kitchen doorway washing dishes. It sounds obsessive when I say it now, but when you've been called dramatic long enough, evidence becomes oxygen. You keep it so you can breathe when everyone starts denying the room is on fire. I called Amber later that night. "I'm serious," I said. "I don't want to come if I'm not actually invited." She laughed, but there was an edge in it. "You are invited." "Then why am I not on the guest list?" "Because Mom was handling place cards, and I was handling workflow." "Workflow? Please don't make that word weird. You put your sister under help, Amber. You're twisting it." "No, I'm reading it." She went quiet. Then she said, "Why do you always turn my milestones into your trial?" There it was. My objection to being used was now an attack on her happiness. "I'm not trying to ruin anything," I said. "I just want to attend as family." "You can do both." "I've been doing both for years. Somehow only one part ever counts." Amber exhaled sharply. "You know what? If you don't want to be there for me, just say that." I should have said, "Fine, I won't come." Instead, because I was still me, I said I would be there in the morning. But this time, I did not show up empty-handed. The day before the brunch, I bought 3 bags of ice, a case of bottled water, 2 packs of disposable cutlery, and extra paper plates because the shared document still had those sections highlighted red. I took photos of the receipts before they faded. I sent Amber a text that said, "I bought the missing basics. Total was $74.83. Send when you can." She sent back a thumbs-up emoji. Not money, just the emoji. I added it to the folder. The morning of the brunch, I arrived early enough that the backyard still looked like a half-built stage set. A white tent took up most of the grass. Folding tables leaned against the garage wall. Rented chairs were stacked in towers. Linen bags sat unopened near the back door. The Mimosa bar sign was propped against a planter, still wrapped in plastic. Inside, the kitchen counters were covered with Costco trays, fruit bowls, bakery boxes, bottles of orange juice, and a bag of lemons nobody had sliced. The fridge was packed so tightly I had to catch a bowl of strawberries before it fell out. Mom was in the kitchen wearing pearl earrings and a pale blouse, looking exactly like the kind of woman who would later tell people she had been running around all morning. She was holding an apron. "Oh good," she said when she saw me. "Put this on." I looked at the apron. It was navy blue with white stripes, the kind you buy in a 2-pack and pretend makes cleanup look charming. "I'm not wearing that." Mom blinked. "Don't start." "I'm not starting. I'm not wearing an apron at my sister's engagement brunch. You'll get something on your clothes. Then I'll be careful." She pressed the apron into my hands anyway. "Daisy, please. Guests will be here soon." Through the window, I could see Amber outside near the tent, taking pictures of her ring with one of her friends. She was wearing a cream dress and heels that had clearly never been meant for carrying folding tables. I set the apron on the counter. "Where's the seating chart?" I asked. Mom pointed toward the dining room. "On the table. Place cards are there too. But first, I need you to start unloading the fruit, and then check the drink station. The rental people were late, and your father has no idea what he's doing with the tables." Dad appeared in the doorway at that exact moment, holding a stack of folded linens like they had personally offended him. "Morning, Daisy," he said, too cheerful. "Morning." He gave me the look he always gave me when Mom was tense. The look that said, "Please don't add to this." Aunt Ruth arrived 10 minutes later with 2 cousins, carrying a casserole dish and a gift bag. Ruth had always been practical, blunt, and allergic to drama unless the drama came with coffee. She looked around the kitchen and said, "Wow, you all really went big." Mom laughed. "Amber has such a vision." I was cutting fruit at the counter when Ruth said, "Do you need help?" I opened my mouth to say yes. Mom answered first. "Oh, Daisy's got it." She wanted to be in charge of the kitchen. The knife stopped in my hand. I looked at Mom. "No, I didn't." Her smile tightened. Ruth glanced between us. Mom said, "Well, you're so good at this." "That's not the same as wanting to be in charge." One of my cousins, Leah, gave me a sympathetic half-smile. Another cousin looked down at her phone. The silence was small but sharp. Amber came in then holding her phone, glowing with that pre-party energy people get when they have not touched a single trash bag. Daisy, can you just fix the dessert labels? The font looks weird. I looked at her. Good morning to you too. She rolled her eyes. Good morning. Can you fix them? No. Her mouth opened slightly, like the word had arrived without an invitation. Mom turned to me. Daisy. I'm cutting fruit. Someone else can handle labels. Amber looked genuinely annoyed. You're better at this stuff. I know. That doesn't mean I'm doing all of it. Mom gave a little laugh, the kind designed for witnesses. Don't act offended. This is the one thing you're actually useful for. The kitchen went quiet. Not normal quiet. Not someone dropped a fork quiet. It was the kind of quiet where everyone knows a line was crossed and waits to see if the person bleeding will politely clean the floor. I set the knife down. What did you say? Mom's cheeks flushed, but she lifted her chin. Don't be dramatic. You know what I mean. I want you to say it again without an audience. Amber made a disgusted sound. Seriously. Dad stared at the linens in his hands. Ruth said, Carol. Mom ignored her. Everyone else has real things going on today. Mom said, voice lower now but still public. Amber is the bride-to-be. Colin's family is coming. Your father is helping outside. You're available, Daisy. Why is that suddenly something to be ashamed of? There it was again. Available. Useful. Not loved. Not valued. Useful. I looked toward the dining room. The place cards were arranged on the table in neat little rows. Amber had chosen thick ivory cards with gold lettering. I walked over, wiping my hands on a towel, and scanned them. Colin's parents. Colin's sister. Ruth. Paul. Leah. The cousins. Mom's neighbors. Amber's friends. Even the youngest kids had place cards with their names written in loopy gold script. There was no Daisy. Beside the place card sat a printed checklist. Picked it up. Under help in Amber's handwriting was my name. Daisy. Kitchen/reset/cleanup. Not sister. Not bridesmaid. Not guest. Column. Function. I carried the paper back into the kitchen and placed it on the counter in front of Mom. So I'm not a guest? Mom didn't even glance at it. Don't start. Amber needs today to be nice. Answer me. Amber snatched the paper up. It's just a planning sheet. With everyone else listed as guests. Amber's face hardened for half a second, then softened when she noticed Colin's sister had stepped into the hallway behind her. Daisy, Amber said in her sweet public voice, you're reading into something that doesn't mean anything. I turned to Colin's sister. Did you get a seat card? She looked mortified. I think so. Exactly. Mom stepped closer. You are embarrassing yourself. No, I said. You did that when you handed me an apron. Mom's eyes flashed. After everything I've done, you choose today to punish us? I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the script was so old I could have recited her lines with her. I picked up the apron from the counter. For 1 second I imagined throwing it into the fruit bowl or onto the floor. Something dramatic. Something that would feel good for 5 seconds and then become the only thing anyone talked about. Daisy threw an apron. Daisy ruined the brunch. Daisy made a scene. So I folded it neatly instead. I placed it beside the checklist. Then I grabbed my bag. Amber stared at me. You'll come back when you calm down. I looked at her, then at Mom, then at Dad. No, I said. I'm calm now. Mom followed me through the dining room, whisper hissing because guests were already drifting in. Daisy, stop. This is not appropriate. Neither is listing your daughter under cleanup. You are proving my point. What point? That you cannot be trusted with important family moments. The words hit the old bruise perfectly. The brooch. The check. The careless daughter. The reason I was useful but never honored. I stopped at the front door and turned back. For the first time all morning, Mom looked unsure. Don't bring up trust, I said. Not today. Then I walked out. I didn't speed away. I didn't slam my car door. I sat in the driver's seat with my hands on the steering wheel and breathed until the buzzing in my chest subsided enough that I could think. My phone lit up before I even started the car. Mom calling. Amber calling. Dad calling. Amber. Are you serious right now? Mom, turn around. Amber, Colin's family is here. Mom. You are being cruel. Dad, come on, Daisy. Don't do this. A cousin texted. Is this about the checklist? Then Ruth. Daisy, leaving before guests arrive is harsh. I stared at Ruth's message for a while. Funny how everyone discovered privacy after they finished humiliating me in public. I did not answer immediately. Instead, I opened my notes app and typed the time. 10:42 a.m. Then I wrote down exactly what had happened while it was fresh. Apron. Missing place card. Help column. Mom's line. Amber's response. Dad looking away. Then I called Marjorie. Marjorie had been Grandma's closest friend for more than 40 years. Not a relative technically, but more family than half the people in that brunch tent. After Grandma died, Marjorie drifted away from Mom. Or maybe Mom pushed her away. I only knew she sent me a birthday card every year with handwriting so neat it looked printed. She answered on the fourth ring. Daisy. Hi, Marjorie. I'm sorry to call like this. Her voice changed immediately. What happened? I sat back against the seat and closed my eyes. Do you still have Grandma's papers? There was a long pause. Not confusion. Recognition. Then Marjorie said, I wondered when you would ask. My throat tightened. So there are papers. Yes. About the brooch? Another pause. And the check, she said. I looked through the windshield at the quiet street. In the distance, I could see balloons bobbing above the backyard fence like nothing ugly was happening. Marjorie exhaled softly. Daisy, I should have spoken sooner. What do you have? I have your grandmother's handwritten note about what was to be kept aside. I have a copy of the bank deposit. I have an appraisal for the pearl brooch. And I have a letter Carol sent me asking me not to confuse you with family business. The words didn't land all at once. They arrived in pieces. Bank deposit. Appraisal. Carol knew. Amber benefited. I pressed my free hand against my stomach. They said I lost it. I know. They told everyone I lost it. I know. Did Amber know? Marjorie was quiet long enough that I had my answer before she spoke. Yes. Something inside me went very still. For years, I had imagined the missing brooch story was a misunderstanding that my family found convenient. Maybe Mom had misplaced it and felt embarrassed. Maybe Amber repeated it because she believed it. Maybe Dad didn't know enough to correct anyone. But this was not a misunderstanding. It was a shield. And I had been the easiest person to hold in front of it. Marjorie said, Your grandmother trusted me with copies because she knew Carol could be selective. I stayed quiet because I was told it would protect the family. I see now who it really protected. I swallowed. Can you send me pictures? Yes. And if you're willing to come today, come. To Amber's brunch? Yes. Marjorie didn't ask why. She didn't tell me to calm down. She didn't warn me about timing. She said, I'll bring the envelope. After we hung up, I sat there and let myself shake for about 30 seconds. Then I stopped. I had spent years being emotional in private and useful in public. That morning I did it the other way around. I let myself be steady in public and angry where no one could use it against me. The family group chat was already moving. Mom. Daisy walked out over nothing. Please ignore the drama. Amber. I'm trying not to cry before photos. This is so unfair. Dad. Everyone, please just focus on Amber and Colin today. Cousin Leah. What happened? Mom. Daisy decided a planning note was an attack. Amber. She saw help and lost it. Ruth. Daisy, I think you should come back and talk after. Uncle Paul. Not the day for this. I watched the messages stack up and realized they were doing what they always did. Filing the official story before I had a chance to breathe. Daisy overreacted. Daisy stormed out. Daisy ruined Amber's day. I opened my family receipts folder. The first things I added were screenshots of the shared planning document. I captured the guests column without my name, then the help column with my name, then Amber's text. You're under help because you said you'd help. Then Mom's voicemail transcript about my little boundaries. I took a photo of the receipt from the supplies I had bought the day before. I added old Venmo screenshots. One from Mom asking me to cover $112 for table rentals 2 summers earlier. One from Amber telling me she would totally send money after brunch. For a baby shower I had basically assembled by myself. A Zelle transfer to Mom for flowers for Dad's retirement dinner, followed by a text from Mom saying, "Don't mention money today. It makes things tacky." I added photos from old events. Thanksgiving, where I was not in the main family picture because I was in the kitchen. A birthday where Amber stood beside a dessert table I had made, accepting compliments. A Christmas dinner where I was visible in the background loading the dishwasher, while Mom hugged Amber in front of the tree. Then I found Dad's voicemail from 6 months earlier. It was after Mom's birthday dinner. I had paid for extra chairs, picked up dessert, cleaned for 2 hours afterward, and then snapped when Mom criticized me for putting the coffee cups on the wrong shelf. Dad had called the next day. The voicemail transcript read, "Daisy, I know you do more than anyone. I do. But you know your mother. She gets embarrassed when things don't look right. Please don't make her feel like you're keeping score." At the time I had cried when I heard it. Not because it was kind, but because it proved he knew. He knew. He knew I did more than anyone and still asked me not to embarrass the person exploiting me. I selected everything into a folder and named it What Daisy Supposedly Never Contributed. Then I waited. Not long. Mom called twice more. Amber sent 7 texts, getting sharper each time. Amber, where is the seating chart file? Amber, Daisy, this is childish. Amber, the cups are gone. Where did you put the extra cups? Amber, you bought cups yesterday. Did you take them? Amber, this is actually insane. I had not taken anything. The cups were in the pantry where Mom always put overflow party supplies. I knew that because I had been the one putting overflow party supplies there for years. I did not answer. A few minutes later, Leah texted me privately. "Leah, I'm sorry. This is messy. Mom says Aunt Carol is telling people you got jealous because Amber didn't ask you to be maid of honor." Me. I haven't mentioned maid of honor once. Leah, I figured. Then she sent me a picture. It showed the drink station under the tent. The mimosa bar sign looked crooked. There were bottles everywhere, no cups, no ice bucket, and a line of guests waiting awkwardly while Amber's friend dug through a cardboard box. I laughed once quietly, not because I wanted the party to fail, but because for years my family had treated my labor as invisible. Remove it and suddenly everyone could see the outline. By 11:30, the group chat had shifted from scolding me to asking practical questions. Cousin, where are the serving spoons? Amber, Daisy had them. Mom, they're somewhere in the kitchen. Ruth, Carol, why was Daisy the only one assigned to kitchen/reset/cleanup? Mom, it was not like that. Leah, it's on the sheet. Amber, can we not do this in the chat? Dad, please. Guests are here. Ruth, then maybe stop texting that Daisy ruined everything. That was the first crack. Ruth had believed Mom for years because Mom sounded certain. That was Mom's gift. She could make a lie feel like common sense. I typed my message slowly. Then I deleted half of it. Rachel, a friend of mine, once told me that the best response to a family smear campaign is not a speech. It is a record. So I sent this. I left because I was invited as unpaid help, not family. Since everyone is being asked to judge me, I'm done keeping the receipts private. Then I attached the folder. For maybe 1 full minute nobody said anything. Then the reactions started. Little thumbs up and shocked face emojis appeared and disappeared. Someone typed stop, typed again. Ruth, is this planning document real? Leah, that's the same one Amber shared. Uncle Paul, maybe this should be discussed later. Me, it was discussed publicly this morning. Amber, are you seriously doing this today? Me, you did it today. I'm answering today. Mom, Daisy, stop. You are humiliating yourself. Me, I'm correcting the record. Amber, you are ruining my engagement brunch over a checklist. Me, the checklist was the receipt, not the problem. Then I sent the screenshot of Mom's voicemail transcript. This is not the time for your little boundaries. The chat went quiet again. I knew what was happening at the house even without being there. People standing around with plates in their hands reading their phones. Amber trying to smile through panic. Mom whispering through clenched teeth. Dad rubbing his forehead like the problem was stress, not truth. Then Marjorie texted me. I'm here. A minute later, Ruth called. I answered. Her voice was lower than usual. Daisy, Marjorie is at the front door. Okay. She has an envelope. I know. What is this? The reason Mom stopped telling people the full story about Grandma's brooch and started telling people I was careless. Ruth didn't speak for a moment. Then she said, Are you telling me Carol lied? I'm telling you Marjorie brought documents. Read them before you decide. I stayed on the phone while Ruth walked away from the noise. I heard the muffled sound of guests talking, a burst of laughter that died quickly, then a door closing. Ruth said, Marjorie, I'm putting you on speaker with Daisy. Marjorie's voice came through, calm but tight. Hello, Daisy. Hi. Ruth said. Tell me what I'm looking at. Marjorie cleared her throat. The first page is your mother's note, Ruth. She wrote down which keepsakes were to be held until the family sorted them. The brooch is listed. The second page is the appraisal from a jeweler. The date is 6 days after the memorial. Ruth's breath caught. Marjorie continued. The third is a bank deposit copy. The amount matches the check your mother said was misplaced, plus what she received from selling the brooch. The account was controlled by Carol. The memo line references Amber's expense. What expense? Ruth asked. I will let Carol answer that. Ruth was silent. I pictured her standing in a bedroom or hallway, holding those papers while the brunch music played outside. Then Ruth said, And the letter? Marjorie's voice changed. Carol wrote to me afterward. She said not to confuse Daisy with family business because Daisy would make it about herself. The words landed differently when someone else read them. For years I had been trapped inside the story. Now the story had witnesses. Ruth said, Daisy, did you know any of this? No. I believed Carol. I know. I am sorry. That almost broke me more than the insult had. Ruth returned to the brunch with the envelope. I know what happened next because Leah texted me updates and later Ruth filled in the rest. Apparently, Marjorie did not make a dramatic entrance. She didn't stand under the tent and ring a glass. She simply walked into the kitchen, handed Ruth the envelope and said, I should have spoken sooner. I won't stay silent today. Mom saw her and went pale. Marjorie, she said, this is not the place. Marjorie replied, You made Daisy's character public years ago. Amber tried to redirect everyone toward the dessert table. Except the dessert labels were still wrong, and the coffee had not been started. Colin was standing near the dining room entrance with the printed checklist in his hand. He had found it on the counter. According to Leah, Colin looked more confused than angry at first. He asked Amber, Why is Daisy not on the guest list? Amber said, She was. It's just a planning thing. Colin held up the paper. Her name is under help. Amber laughed too loudly. Because she was helping. Everyone helps at family parties, Mom said. Ruth, who had apparently reached the end of her patience, said, No, Carol. Everyone eats at family parties. Daisy works them. The kitchen went quiet again. Mom tried her polished voice. Ruth, please don't let Daisy's dramatics pull you into this. Ruth held up her phone. I just looked at the receipts. She paid for half your last 3 gatherings. That's not true. It is true. There are screenshots. Amber snapped. Why does she even have those? That's weird. Ruth looked at her. Probably because you all keep lying. That was when Colin asked the question that mattered. Amber, did Daisy volunteer to run the brunch? Amber's eyes filled with tears. She was very good at tears. Not fake exactly but timed. Tears that arrived right when accountability did. I thought she wanted to help, Amber said. Colin looked at the checklist again. This document makes it look like you built the whole party around using her. Amber's voice sharpened. You don't understand our family. No, he said. I'm starting to think I didn't. Mom tried to pull him aside. Colin, family dynamics can look harsh from the outside. Ruth said. Then explain the brooch. That stopped everything. Dad, who had been mostly useless near the kitchen island, finally looked up. Ruth, he said quietly. No, Ruth said. Not this time. She opened the envelope and held up the copies, not like a prosecutor, but like someone tired of being recruited into someone else's lie. Carol, is Daisy lying about any of this? Mom's face went rigid. You don't understand the context. Ruth said, that wasn't my question. Amber started crying harder. This is unbelievable, she said. Daisy isn't even here, and she's still making everyone look at me like I'm awful. Leah texted me that line word for word. I read it twice. Then I typed. I didn't make them look. I stopped standing in front of the mess. I sent it only to Amber. She responded immediately. Amber, you are cruel. Me, you didn't mind humiliating me when the lie helped you. Don't call it cruelty when the truth stops helping you. She didn't respond after that. The brunch did not explode in a movie way. Nobody flipped a table. Nobody screamed so loudly the neighbors came outside. Real family disasters are usually uglier and quieter than that. Guests whispered. Colin's mother stopped trying to make cheerful conversation. Someone finally found the cups in the pantry, which somehow made Amber angrier because it proved I had not stolen or hidden them. The hot trays went out late and lukewarm. The fruit was half cut. The dessert table looked pretty from one angle and unfinished from every other. A few people left early with polite excuses. Ruth stayed. Leah stayed. Uncle Paul stayed too, though mostly because he wanted to pretend he was not listening while listening very hard. Marjorie left after 20 minutes. Before she went, she told Mom, your mother wanted these things handled fairly. You had years to fix this before Daisy had to. Mom said nothing. That was Mom's second gift. Silence that pretended to be dignity. Later that afternoon, Dad called me. I let it ring. He called again. Then he texted. Dad, please pick up. Your mother is devastated. I stared at the word devastated. I used to drop everything for that word. This time I wrote, me. I'm not available to comfort her about consequences. Dad, that's not fair. Me. Neither was blaming me for Grandma's brooch. Dad. It's complicated. Me. Then explain it in the group chat. He did not. 10 minutes later he left a voicemail. Daisy, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying this is hard on everyone. Couldn't you have waited until after Amber's day? Your mother feels attacked. Amber is embarrassed. Colin's family saw everything. I just think there was a better way. I saved it, then I sent him back his old voicemail. The one where he said, I know you do more than anyone. Then I texted. Me, you knew me. You knew what I did. You knew what they said. You still let them do it. He replied almost an hour later. Dad. I should have handled things differently. That was the closest my father had ever come to an apology. It was still passive. Still slippery. But at least it faced the right direction. Mom did not apologize. Of course she didn't. She sent one long message that night directly to me, probably after rewriting it several times. Mom. I hope you are satisfied with yourself. Today should have been about Amber and Colin. Instead you dragged private family pain into a celebration. I have protected you more times than you know, and you repay me by making me look like a thief and a liar. There are adult decisions you were too young and emotional to understand. One day you will regret choosing humiliation over grace. I read it while sitting on my couch with a glass of water and a plate of toast because I had not eaten all day. My first instinct was to answer every line. I wanted to ask how framing her daughter counted as protection. I wanted to ask what adult decision required letting relatives joke about me losing Grandma's brooch. I wanted to say grace is not silence under someone else's foot. Instead, I took a screenshot and saved it. Then I wrote, me. If you repeat the brooch story again, I will send the documents to whoever hears it. That was all. Amber's message came later. Amber. You made everyone look at me like I'm a monster. Me, I didn't make them look. I stopped standing in front of the mess. Amber. I thought you loved me. That one hurt because I had. I still did, in some exhausted corner of myself. But love had become the rope she used to pull me back into service. Me, I did. I also loved Grandma. You let them blame me. Amber. You don't know what was happening then. Me, I know what happened after. You repeated it. She didn't respond. The next few days were exactly what you'd expect from a family whose favorite scapegoat had stopped cooperating. Some relatives went silent because silence is safer than apologizing. A few sent awkward texts. Leah wrote, I'm sorry I didn't say more in the kitchen. That was wrong. I believed her. Not because silence was okay, but because she didn't try to excuse it. Uncle Paul sent. This got out of hand. I didn't answer. A cousin from Dad's side wrote, I always thought you liked organizing. Sorry. That one made me laugh because it was so honest in the saddest possible way. Ruth called me the next day. I believed your mother because she sounded certain, she said. That was my mistake. I was quiet. She added, Daisy, you didn't create this mess by proving it existed. I didn't know how badly I needed someone to say that until she did. Then she told me more about what had happened after I stopped getting updates. Colin had taken Amber outside for a private conversation that was not private enough. People near the tent heard bits of it. I was told Daisy always makes things about herself, he said. Amber said something about me being jealous. Colin replied, a jealous person doesn't pay for your cups. I wish I had been there for that part. He also asked Amber to explain why my name was not on the guest list. Amber apparently said, it was Mom's job to do place cards. Mom said, Amber made the planning sheet. Dad said nothing until Ruth looked directly at him and asked, Leonard, did you know Daisy was doing all this? Dad said, Daisy has always been helpful. Ruth said, that is not what I asked. The brunch staggered to its official end. Photos were taken but not many. Amber posted one picture later that night. Her hand on Colin's chest, ring visible, captioned, Love matters most. She turned off comments. That told me enough. 3 days after the brunch, I sent a boundary message to Mom, Dad, Amber, Ruth, and the family group chat. I wrote it in my notes first. I edited out anything that sounded like begging. I removed every sentence where I tried to make them understand my feelings, because I finally understood understanding had never been the entry fee. They had understood enough. They just benefited from pretending not to. The message said, from now on, I will attend family events only as a guest. I will not organize, cook, clean, buy supplies, run errands, manage rentals, handle gifts, make labels, or pay surprise costs unless I clearly agree ahead of time. If my name appears on a task list without my agreement, I will not attend. If I arrive and there is no seat for me, I will leave. If anyone repeats the story that I lost Grandma's brooch or mishandled the check, I will send Marjorie's documents to whoever heard it. Invite me as family or don't invite me. I'm not available as staff. Mom replied within minutes. Mom, this is hostile. Me, it is clear. Amber, so you're punishing everyone forever? Me, I'm ending a job I never accepted. Dad, Daisy, can we talk without the group? Meh. Private conversations become public lies later. That line got 3 thumbs-up reactions from relatives who had said absolutely nothing before. I noticed that. People are braver with buttons than words. Mom stopped texting after that. For about a month, the family treated me like I had detonated something instead of stepping away from a blast zone. I heard from Ruth that Mom had told people I was going through a bitter phase. Amber said I was weaponizing receipts. Dad said he hoped time would soften everyone. Time did not soften me. Clarified things. The first real consequence showed up around Mom's anniversary dinner. Normally, I would have gotten a text 2 weeks before. Can you come early? Can you pick up the cake? Can you bring ice? Can you stay after for dishes? This time Mom did not ask. She hired a small local catering setup and rented linens properly. Ruth told me Mom complained for days about the price. The funniest thing about being called useless, Ruth said, is how expensive people become when they stop being useful for free. I laughed so hard I had to sit down. The dinner was smaller than usual. Amber did not bring homemade-looking appetizers because, as everyone now understood, I had been the one who always made them. Mom used disposable tablecloths from a party store and complained they looked cheap. Dad picked up the cake himself and forgot candles. Nobody died. Thanksgiving, I was invited. The text came from Dad, not Mom. Dad, we would like you to come as a guest. No tasks. I stared at it for a long time. Then I answered. Me, I'll come for dinner. I'm bringing a store-bought pie. I'm leaving before cleanup. Dad, okay. I did exactly that. I arrived 15 minutes before dinner. Not 3 hours early. I brought a pie in its plastic grocery store container and did not transfer it to one of Mom's ceramic plates to make it look nicer. Mom saw it and visibly struggled not to comment. Amber was there with Colin. They were still engaged, but something between them looked different. Not broken exactly, but inspected. Colin greeted me politely and said, "Good to see you, Daisy." Amber said, "Hi." I said, "Hi." That was all. Dinner was awkward for the first 20 minutes because nobody knew what to do with me sitting down. I watched Mom glance toward the kitchen 3 times as if expecting me to rise automatically. I did not. I passed the rolls. I ate my food while it was hot. I talked to Leah about her new apartment. When a cousin spilled cranberry sauce, 3 people looked at me. I looked back. Leah got up and grabbed paper towels. Progress. After dessert, Mom stood and started stacking plates loudly. That was her nonverbal way of announcing that decent people should help. I put on my coat. Dad looked at me, then at Mom, then back at me. "Good night," I said. Mom's mouth tightened. "Leaving already?" "Yes. There are dishes." "I know." For 1 second, the old fear sparked in my chest. The fear that I was cruel, selfish, ungrateful, too sensitive. The kind of daughter who abandoned family over dishes. Then I remembered the apron folded on the counter, the missing place card, the brooch story, the bank deposit, the way everyone had found my usefulness convenient until I removed it. I smiled politely and left. Nobody stopped me. A few weeks later, Amber texted me. "Amber, I miss how things used to be." I almost responded, "Of course you do." Instead, I waited until I could answer without wanting to cut. "I don't." "Amber, that's harsh." "Me, what you miss was me doing the work and absorbing the blame. That was only comfortable for you." "Amber, you make it sound like I never cared about you." "Me. Caring about me quietly while using me publicly didn't help me." She didn't answer for 2 days. Then she wrote, "Amber, Colin wants us to talk about the brooch stuff before the wedding." I stared at the message. Not, "I want to talk." Not, "I'm sorry. Colin wants." Still, it was something. Me. Then tell him the truth. "Amber, it's not that simple." Me, it is now. I didn't attend any wedding planning meetings. I didn't help with guest addresses. I didn't assemble favors. I didn't design seating charts, proofread menus, call vendors, or make emergency runs to craft stores. Amber asked once through Dad whether I could just look at the timeline. I replied, "No." Dad said, "She's stressed." I said, "She can hire someone." He said, "That's expensive." I said, "Yes." And that was the whole conversation. Mom tried the brooch story one more time in a sideways way during a family lunch. I wasn't there, but Leah was. Apparently, someone mentioned Grandma's jewelry and Mom said, "Well, some things from that period will always be unclear." Ruth said, "No, they won't." Then Ruth pulled out her phone. Mom changed the subject. That was the thing about evidence. I didn't need to shout it from rooftops. I just needed it to exist where the lie used to live. Mom never gave a real apology. The closest she came was a card mailed to me 2 months after the brunch. It had flowers on the front and a printed message about family being imperfect. Inside she wrote, "Daisy, I regret that things became painful between us. I hope we can move forward with more grace. Mom." I set it on my counter and looked at it while my coffee brewed. Things became painful. Like a storm. Like traffic. Like nobody made choices. I did not respond. Dad asked me about the card later. "Your mother reached out," he said. "She sent a sentence where nobody did anything." He sighed. "She's trying." "No, Dad. She's trying to get credit for trying." He didn't like that, but he didn't argue. That was another change. My father had spent decades acting like peace was the absence of confrontation. I had started judging peace by whether I had to disappear to create it. The answer most of my life had been yes. Not anymore. The biggest fallout was not one dramatic family split. It was smaller and more permanent. People stopped automatically believing Mom's version of me. Amber stopped receiving effortless credit for work she had not done because people had started asking, "Who handled this?" Dad could no longer call himself neutral without someone remembering that old voicemail. Ruth became the relative who asked direct questions, which made Mom avoid her for a while. Future gatherings changed. Some got smaller. Some got more expensive. Some became potlucks where people actually signed up for things and brought them. A few were messy because nobody knew how much I had been smoothing. And every time something went wrong, there was this strange little pause where people realized they could not call Daisy to fix it unless they were willing to treat Daisy like a person. I won't pretend it didn't hurt. It hurt to learn that my family could adjust so quickly once my labor was no longer available. It hurt to realize they had always been capable of doing things themselves. They just preferred not to when I was cheaper. It hurt even more to understand the brooch story had survived not because truth was hard to find, but because blaming me was easy. Marjorie and I got coffee a month after the brunch. She brought copies of everything for me to keep. The papers sat between us in a plain manila folder. Not glowing, not magical, just real. "I'm sorry," she said. "I should have given these to you years ago." I believed her too. "You were trying not to make it worse," I said. "I made it worse by staying quiet." I appreciated that she didn't ask me to absolve her. She just said the truth and let it sit there. Before we left, she handed me a small envelope. Inside was a photo of Grandma wearing the pearl brooch. "I thought you should have this," Marjorie said. In the picture, Grandma was standing in somebody's backyard, laughing at something off camera. The brooch was pinned crookedly to her sweater. She looked alive in that casual, ordinary way old photos can make feel impossible. I cried in my car afterward. Not because of the jewelry. I never cared about owning the brooch. I cared that the story of losing it had been used to make me smaller. The photo felt like Grandma saying, "You were there. You remember correctly." That mattered. Almost a year after Amber's engagement brunch, I got another group text about a family gathering. Ruth was hosting this time. Her message was simple. "Ruth, dinner next month. Everyone is a guest. Food assignments are voluntary and listed below. If you don't sign up, you are still welcome." I read it twice because it felt almost unreal. There was a sign-up list. It had names, not assumptions, not assignments disguised as compliments, actual volunteers. I wrote, "Me, I'll bring drinks." Then I added, "Me, I won't be staying for cleanup." Ruth replied. Ruth understood. No guilt, no speech, no but family. Just understood. At the dinner, I brought 2 cases of sparkling water and placed them on the counter. Then I sat down. Later, when people started clearing plates, I helped carry my own to the sink and stopped there. Mom watched me from across the room but said nothing. Amber was quieter around me now. Not humble exactly. More careful. Colin had not become my best friend or some dramatic hero, but he treated me with a kind of direct respect I was not used to from people attached to Amber. Before they left that night, he said, "I'm glad you came." Amber looked at him, then at me. "Me too," she said softly. I nodded. I didn't rush to forgive her. I didn't punish her either. I just refused to pretend the wound was healed because she had stopped pressing on it. That is where things are now. I don't organize family parties. I don't cover surprise costs. I don't rescue people from consequences they created by assuming I would rescue them. I don't answer texts that begin with, "Can you just?" Unless I genuinely want to. Mom still thinks I took things too far. I know because she once told Ruth I had become cold. Ruth told her, "No, Carol." She became specific. I love that line. Because that is what changed. I did not become cruel. I became specific. Specific about what I would do. Specific about what I would not carry. Specific about the difference between helping and being used. Specific about the fact that a seat at the table matters when you are expected to serve everyone sitting at it. I used to measure my place in the family by how needed I was. If they needed me, maybe they loved me. If they called me first, maybe I mattered. If the party fell apart without me, maybe someone would finally notice what I had been doing all along. They noticed. But not because I worked harder. They noticed because I stopped. I didn't ruin Amber's party. I just stopped holding it together for people who laughed while I carried it. And the strangest, cleanest part is this. Once I stopped carrying trays, secrets, receipts, and blame that never belonged to me, I had both hands free for my own life. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.